And welcome back to Oh, Jesus, now it start. And welcome back to TLDR. I'm your friendly neighborhood. Oh, yes, kiddo?
What a day. What a start. This is a perfect start.
What?
No, now you're on mute, Joe.
Jesus Christ. Okay, welcome back to TLDR. I'm your friendly neighborhood backcracker, Dr. Joe. With me, as always, is my hunk in crime. And today, for those watching on YouTube, Twitter, or Twitch, Doc is on location, baby, from the clock tower with my good pal Friar. Mick,
my
how's it going?
How the fuck did you do that?
I got my ways.
Oh my God. You must have taken a screenshot when I was like off screen sometime when we were talking or some shit. That's impressive there.
No. When you went to go rip a piss at the restaurant the other day, I said, Lauren, I need a favor. I need to take a picture of Nick's wall. Look at this. It's perfectly framed.
Oh,
look at that.
My God. Wow. That is amazing. And I'm going to have an argument with her after the show. So thank you for starting our night off on a good note. Fuck. And she's happy with you because the author you're talking about today, Lauren, is a big fan of too.
Hell yeah.
Oh, wow. This is, I'm totally rattled right now. But I do want to remind people, Joe did already mention Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube. If you're coming across us on any of those platforms in video form, we're also available in audio form, a lot easier to listen to us there. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Geeks Worldwide, SoundCloud. We're on midnight.fm too. All the places, Amazon Music, Audible. You can find us anywhere that you find your podcasts. I know we're on at least 10 platforms, so if we're not on the one that you listen to, let us know, and I'll make sure we get over there. But we got all their major ones. Also, Joe, we did want to touch on, too, of course, the unfortunate passing of legendary comic book artist Tim Sale. I know that you posted something on Instagram, of course, ton of Batman stuff over the years, and I know this one hit you pretty hard.
Yeah, I mean, we've lost a lot of Titans, lately, and this one just really seemed this one hit me a little bit harder because I have a collection of Tim Sale's books. I mean, some of his books, with Jeff Loeb, are just some of my favorite, just Batman stories, as well as Superman. Superman for All Seasons is one of my favorite Superman books, and he was young. He's young. He's my mother's
66,
age.
I think.
Yeah, he's my mother's age.
Yeah,
and so it sounded like he'd been battling an illness. I don't know the exact details, but it just came out of the blue, and it just really just kind of hit me, and it sucks. And like I said, Superman for All Seasons, Long Halloween, Dark Victory, some of those iconic books he did with Jeff Loeb are just some of my all-time favorite Batman books. So this one really sucked.
Yeah, it's a rough day, and you're right. We have lost quite a few too many comic book creators over the recent years. So it is sad to see him go. And there really isn't a great way for us to kind of pivot out of any of this kind of stuff. So I think we can we'll just slowly meander over to catching up. And I'll lead us into this, Joe. I got two that I caught up on. Devil's Highway, Volume 2, Issue 2 from our guy Benjamin Percy, and Radiant Red from our girl Cherish Chen. Issue 3 of that. Both of them really enjoyed it. Of course, Radiant Red, the 4th issue of that came out this week. Devil's Highway, though, continues to be I really obviously talked about the first volume on this show. Really liked it a lot. Definitely could have stayed its own thing. I am so glad that Ben is revisiting this story and going forward. This is like these first 2 issues have been outstanding, and I think like where I thought the entire first volume was really good, obviously TLDR worthy, I think this is even a step above. So
nice.
Really enjoyed these first 2 issues. Then Radiant Red, definitely an interesting twist in the 4th one, but we're not going to expand on that one quite as much, but really enjoy the work that Cherish is doing over there.
Was that the final issue, or is there one more?
One more. I thought there was originally going to be 4 as well, but there's going to be 5. So nice. Definitely a little twist at the end of issue 4. And when I read it, I was like, wait a minute. You're going to end on this and that's it? You're not going to give us any more? That's how you stop this whole thing? Like, of course, you can revisit it in Radiant Black or something like that, but come on, that's how you end it? So very good ending for the penultimate issue of this mini series. But Joe, what have you been catching up on?
So I've finally caught up on the past couple issues of Darth Vader. I've been a little behind on this. I read issues 21, 22, 23.
Nice.
And this is a Star Wars property right now that I can actually enjoy. Because I'm Obi-Wan is just not my, I mean, there's some good stuff there, but God, I think I hyped it up too much, and I just
I think you did.
fucking
Yeah.
little Leia's just absolutely just show's brutal. Show's not brutal. She's brutal. It takes me out of it. Just the
It's so
pits.
funny how, like, so for you, and you love Mando, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I think Mando's the best thing that we've
Oh,
gotten
100%.
from the show. So I don't think there's much debate for that. I do think the last 4 episodes of Boba Fett were very well done. I know
But it
everybody
needed
says
Mando, right?
what, right?
Like
Yes, no, I understand that. Yes, but the stuff in the final episode, and I thought that what they did in the episode before Mando got brought in was all like was good. Like you should have given us that much sooner in the story. But they needed to do all this back to tank stuff just so you could have it friggin' in this too. But it's interesting. Like I love Mando. I think Mando's the best stuff. You do as well. Then I talked to my dad, who like doesn't hate Mando, but doesn't really care for it as much. Loves the Obi-Wan stuff. I thought Obi-Wan is good, but it's just like, dude, like what are you talking about? Like
you
it's not.
you could there was a long discussion on Twitter earlier today where you could take Leia out of the story completely, you could write the show where you still have the same thing. It doesn't need to revolve around Leia,
Mm,
right? Like she's just there to sort of plant the seeds of some relationship between her and Obi-Wan,
mm,
but really it's about Riva trying to track down Obi-Wan, right? Darth Vader wanting it's like you can do that in a much different way without having this you know wildly annoying character that we don't need.
mm. See, it's just
And
not
this
annoying me as
just takes me out,
she does not
so
annoy
much.
me as much as you. But it's this thing. I asked my dad, I was like, you don't have a problem with little Leia? And he's like, no. Why would somebody have a problem with little Leia? But yeah, so yeah, there you go. Apparently,
Yeah.
but anyways, let's move over to what's new because we got a ton of books to talk about today. A lot of new releases. Joe,
Oh boy.
why don't you take us through what we got from Marvel?
And surprisingly enough, like Marvel has the least interesting stuff that I wanted to read this week. But we've got Moon Knight number 12, Amazing Spider-Man number 4, X-Men number 12, which I just read, continues to be excellent. New Mutants 26, Miles Morales Spider-Man number 39, Immortal X-Men number 3, Knights of X number 3, New Fantastic Four number 1, Star Wars Crimson Reign number 5, Silver Surfer Rebirth number 5, Marvel Voices Pride number 1, Miles Morales and Moon Girl number 1, and probably the biggest book I was looking forward to. I haven't had a chance to read it yet, but looks awesome. Is Punisher War Journal Blitz number 1.
Yeah, and I do want to touch on New Fantastic Four issue 1 really quick. I was excited for this one because this is Joe Fixit, Wolverine, Ghost Rider, and Spider-Man. 100% more of a kid's book than anything else. It's not like poorly done or anything, but it's just like not. It's definitely not for our age range, like for older readers. Obviously, there's plenty of stuff that can be both. This was not necessarily. I didn't feel like it's not like My Little Ponies, like where it's like little kids, but not for older readers. So whatever. But Punisher War Journal Blitz issue 1, Joe, stuff dealing with stuff with the hand, a ton of action. Of course, you're expecting this, obviously, a lot of violence, dealing with like a thing that Punisher, like a character that had survived the Punisher in the past. Very hateful character, very vicious character, who's willing to sacrifice everybody else at his own betterment. So some awesome stuff there. And it's just more of like dealing with the hand and everything too. And I just think he's done. You're seeing Punisher. This is a chance to see him kind of having an army at his command and how he kind of handles that whole situation. So just more of it's different art, creative team, but more of the same with the Punisher stuff that we're getting right now in Jason Aaron's mainline at this point.
Okay, awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
I definitely this and X-Men were the two things I really wanted to read this week. I got to X-Men, didn't get a chance to this, but that sounds. I mean, outside, I'm not a big fan of the logo change.
Mm.
I understand why they did it, but that small gripe aside, I love what they've been doing with Punisher. with this little rebirth that he's having. So I can't wait to read this.
Yeah, they really have been doing some awesome stuff with him. I mean, mixing him in with the hand, not something I ever thought. Like, and
No, but
just
it works
and
so
it's
well.
what's crazy is like the whole issue is good, and then they give us like this what the fuck moment at the
Ha!
end. They've done it a few times at the
Yeah,
end of
yeah,
the issue, so
love it.
it's been awesome, awesome. From DC, we got Nightwing 93,
So good.
the Flash 783, Superman World's Finest issue 4, Catwoman 44, Dark Crisis Young Justice issue 1, Fables 152, Aquaman and the Flash Void Song issue 1, Earth Prime 6, Heroes Welcome, Milestones in History issue 1, Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen's boss Perry White issue 1. Probably my least favorite title of any
Oh,
fucking series.
it's the fucking
Come
worst.
on,
Like,
guys.
just I'm sure the book's fine, but what a fucking dumb title.
Scooby Doo, Where Are You? 116. And then we got two that we wanted to hit on a little bit more at length. Why don't you start us off on? Actually, you wanted to do possible Doc Talk worthy book from our buddy Chip Zdarsky.
Yeah. So I mean, we've talked about this book a number of times, right? Batman the Night. And when we talked to Chip about it, what makes this book interesting is that it really, it's really for the first time giving us that transition from, angry child teen Bruce Wayne into becoming Batman. And
Hmm.
I know we've talked about this before where people are like, do we really need this story? Don't we already know it? Well, what the only shit we really know that we've got from any sort of medium is Batman Begins, which in and of itself is a fine movie. I enjoy it, but it doesn't even come close to telling that story,
Right.
from going from, young Bruce Wayne, into Batman. And what Chip does here, he does two things really well. One, he's just telling a great story, right? Just so far where we're at, he understands the characters, he understands Bruce Wayne. He's writing a really fantastic story. But the second thing he's done is he's sort of he's giving us these subtle little things about the character that we already know, but just makes it, like he gives us context or reasons why Batman is the way he is. And he's done it very subtly. We talked about in the early issues, with his obsession with Catwoman stems from, sort of his obsession with an early mentor who was a very Catwoman-esque
Hmm.
character who he fell in love with. And with this issue here, when you think of Batman, you think of justice, right? You think of, vigilantism, but you think of like Batman is always going to, he's got his code, right? His
Hmm.
moral code. He doesn't use guns, he doesn't kill. That's just
Hmm.
something that we know about Batman that we take, as fact, and that's it. But what Chip does in this is in a two-page sort of, spread and series of panels here, is that he gives us very subtly, if I could speak correctly,
Hmm.
why that is, where that stemmed from, where that seed was planted. And it's
Hmm.
not like done through narration or excessive exposition. It's Bruce Wayne sharing a common thing with another character that they have no relation to each other whatsoever other than mentor and mentee. But
Hmm.
as this character is telling his story, you get this flashback of Bruce and his the way his parents died, and then what happens afterwards. And it's like that was fucking brilliant.
Hmm.
Like that is such a perfect reason why Batman refuses to use guns and refuses to kill. Like,
Yep.
not because he just got this moral code of I'm Bruce, I'm Batman, so this is how I'm going to do it. No, there's a reason for it, and Chip does it so perfectly.
Mm.
It just I read this issue and it was like we've talked about this with some other books. It just keeps getting better and better and
Yep.
better, right?
Yep.
And it's just
And of course, the artist on this is Carmine Giandomencio. I apologize. I'm definitely butchering Carmine's name. But yeah, I agree. Like we're reading this, and we've always thought like no guns. Okay, like that. There's definitely plenty of characters that just like, okay, no guns, whatever. It's fine. It's not their thing. They have, they object against it, whatever it is. But with Batman, like we do know with the no killing and everything, but the no killing, it can get frustrating at times, especially as a Red Hood fan, where it's like,
Mhm.
let him do it because he's gonna do it. But with Batman, it's like, as you said, Joe, in this issue, it's just adding on to it more. It's like, okay, we've always known it being this one thing, and this is the main reason, the primary reason, and that's fine. But now it's like there's another thing right there, and it's
Yeah.
really hammering it home. And it doesn't have anything to do with his personal experience, it's just learning through somebody else that he knew and what they did in their life, and like how. And then, of course, the experiences that transpire a little bit later on in the book too only
Yeah.
compound things even more for
And how similar it was to him, right?
him.
Like I said, like shared experiences are completely opposite of each other, of two characters that don't know each other whatsoever, but it was just executed to perfection and gives such a great reasoning why, that's what we did. Chips planted these little seeds for reasons why Batman is the way he is, why his obsession is with Catwoman, why his obsession is with this, with that, with no guns, no killing. It's
Mhm.
been exceptional.
It's and what's so awesome about it too is like this all feels very natural. Like there's none
Yeah.
of it that's forced. There's none of it like where you get to that first issue and it's like, oh, yep, all right, this is where they're gonna go with it. Like as they're going through their training, I understand like, oh yeah, you want to know what a you want to know all the things that your opponents can't are capable of, so that way you can disarm them, stop them, whatever. Like, yeah, we get there, but there's more to it. There's more
Hmm.
every single time. So and this is just like you said, it's these little things that just explain a little bit more why Batman feels this way or has this approach or whatever. So it's been an outstanding series. So like I think this is one just like they did with the Knights of Steel, where they came out with like a 3 issue trade. So look, if you want to do that, by all means, so that way you don't have to wait. But I would assume they're going to come out in 6 issue trades as well. This is a 12 issue story. Maybe they'll just come out with one 12 issue omnibus or whatever too. Or yeah, omnibus I guess would be at that
Calling
point.
a 12 issue an omnibus versus
Yes,
just
yeah,
a trade.
just feels weird. But either way, that's something that you guys are definitely want to pick up if you're
Hmm.
Batman fans. And even if you haven't read a ton of Batman over the years, you can still read this. And as long as you have knowledge of Batman, you will be able to enjoy that series. Now, obviously, you like Nightwing a lot. Another book that I was really looking forward to coming into this week was Black Adam. And I've said it before, not so much because I give a huge shit about Black Adam, more so because I love Christopher Priest's work. He did an outstanding job with Deathstroke. I actually got to look to find more of his work because I haven't read enough of him outside of his DC stuff. But you've got him and Rafa Sandoval on this, and it looks like Willie Schubert. Yep, that is. I believe that is the same letterer that he had for Deathstroke as well. Just looking at some of the stuff that he did. It's funny. I was actually looking at a review on Geeks Worldwide. I didn't write it, but they were kind of the reviewer was kind of like surprised at how it wasn't Ferg, what was disjointed, like it's things seemed within the story. And it's not that they're disjointed, but if you're not familiar with Priest's storytelling style, it
Mm.
can throw you off at first originally, because he does this thing where he has like a not a data page, but like a setting like panel, like, and he tells you where things are, if it was before what you just saw, those kinds of things. Sometimes it feels like he'll give you like a latitude, longitude, just to kind of for an effect. But more importantly, like he's just like telling you, like, okay, things shifted over to here. This is what's going on in this moment right now. This is where we are, in the course of the story. So I personally like that. I think it's a one way. You can bounce around in different ways in stories, but for Priest and what he did with Deathstroke, it felt like very natural to me. And for this, like this first issue, for everything that they're trying to get into this first issue, totally worked for me as well. That Black Adam is in a weird spot, not at all what I expected coming into this series. In this first issue, I thought it was a rock solid first issue. I think the art is awesome. You get a decent amount of action too. Definitely a couple little okey dokes mixed in. We meet a new character who's going to play an important role in this series too. Has some potential, kind of a wisecracker. So I think we got some good stuff here in Black Adam. Definitely going to be looking at the second issue. And this is a 12 issue maxi series like the Night. I like that DC's doing more and more of this kind of stuff with Christopher Priest. I love it. Very interested in it. So
Awesome. Yeah, that's another book I wanted to check out this week from DC. I just didn't get a chance to read. So
very
I'm
curious
looking
what
for
you
that
have to
because
say.
because I'm very unfamiliar, cursory knowledge of Black Adam. So
I
with the movie
think
coming out, with the trailer looked awesome. I don't know if the book will tie into that at all, but I would like to read some more Black Adam stuff leading up to the movie.
I think for people who aren't just based on the first issue, because and you'll see what I'm talking about when you read it. I think this is going to be a series that people who aren't as familiar with Black Adam, this will be good for you. Like you're going to get to really know the character, and maybe give you a good frame of mind of like what they're planning for the character in the future when it comes to DC, or maybe even maybe a shift in direction with the character with DC. But anyways, I think it'll be interesting. Of course, I've talked quite a bit about Marvel, a ton about DC, but whew,
Oh boy.
the big week, of course, belongs to Image. Joe, take us through what came out from them.
All right, so here are some of the books that we read, we love, but we won't talk about, which should tell you how great of a fucking week it was from Image. Nocterra, issue 11. Gunslinger Spawn, number 9.
Mm.
Deadly Class, 53. Radiant Red, number 4. Bloodstained Teeth, number 3. Homesick Pilots, number 15, which I believe is the finale. Beware the Eye of Odin, number 1. I read this. Wasn't my cup of tea. We're just going to leave it at that. Aerosmith, Behind Enemy Lines, number 6. And I always just think of the band whenever it's not spelled
Yeah.
the same, but it's just weird.
Yep.
But Hellcop, number 8. Zombies vs. Robots Classics, number 4. And then we've got 3 books, not including the ones that we just read, that we want to talk about. So where should we start, Nicholas?
I think we should begin with the one book that you're going to touch on that I will not be touching on because I am behind on this series. Very
Okay,
behind, actually.
so get caught up.
Okay.
Get caught up because
All
the
right.
Silver Coin is fucking tremendous.
Mm.
So Silver Coin returns, issue 11, with yet to be friend of the show, but hopefully one day will be, James Tynion the Fourth. I forgot that I knew he was writing a Silver Coin book. I forgot it was this issue. So when we got the review copy, and I'm like, oh shit, and I saw his name there. So Silver Coin, I mean, we loved the first arc, right? And the first arc, that was like, there was this weird like roller coaster with it, where the first few issues were really great. Then we got like a meh issue. Then we got that weird eye worm Jeff Lemire issue. And then I thought it kind of wrapped up pretty well by sort of giving us an origin of the coin.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second arc I thought was tremendous. It was just like start to finish. It was really great. They just kept getting creepier and creepier and creepier. And this issue, it felt like Tynion was sort of, hearkening back to like what were those scholastic books you would get, scary stories to tell in the dark. You
I thought
might
it
be
was a
too young.
show. Oh no, no,
Well,
no, 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 no. That was yeah, because I think Dork
Are
did
You
a whole
Afraid of the
episode on that.
Dark? Right.
Yeah, yep,
And so
yep.
like
Sorry.
there was these little horror books, and I only read one of them. There's a bunch of them, but there was one I just vividly remember where like, and I think like The Simpsons kind of spoofed it, where like, the school cafeteria was grinding up kids and feeding them,
Yep.
to right. So this harkened back to that a lot. This was just great tiny story. I forget who the artist is, and I should have written that down. I apologize. But the art, well,
Michael
no, the
Walsh.
art, Michael Walsh. Thank you. Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
So Walsh's art, like throughout this, has just been like he's like nailed the vibe, perfectly, of just giving you that dark, creepy horror. And we get sort of a new character that might be sort of a thread, a continuing thread through this next arc here.
Oh.
So yeah, just like his story's great. It's a slow build, and then it ramps up. It just fucking takes off, and it is vicious. It is gory, and it's just like this and Hotel are just two phenomenal horror anthology series that I think anyone that's a
Hmm.
fan of horror needs to read.
So I can't wait till we have James Tynion on the show so we can tell him how much you've talked about him in other interviews. So because I'm sure he'll feel very comfortable knowing how much he's on your mind.
Right.
But yeah, Silver Coin, I definitely need to catch up on that. The second trade of that is out now. So it should be easy for anybody to catch up on that. Of course, really
Catch
enjoyed the
up,
first arc.
Nicholas. Just do it.
Other than
You'll
the
fly through it in a night. I guarantee it.
I
You'll
believe
you'll
that.
rip through them.
I other than the Lemire eyeworms,
Oh
I
yeah,
enjoyed this
Jesus.
very much too. But yeah,
Yeah,
there's just been so much just from Image alone. Like if
I
you're
know.
someone who's just like I want to just read Image comics, like you could very easily do that and get a ton of awesome stories, week to week. Because as we're looking at this, right? We're not talking about Philadelphia. We're not talking about King Spawn. Obviously, we talked to Sean Lewis recently about Above Snakes that's going to be coming out. And obviously Nita Hawes' Nightmare Blog. We haven't gotten much any of that in a little while too. So those are just two friends of the show that have two awesome books over there.
Yeah,
I didn't even mention the Scorched. So there's so much, and that's in this week alone we have some crazy shit.
yeah,
But then we got two other books that we did want to hit on. We mentioned friend of the show Chip Zdarsky earlier. Let's hit on Newburn issue 8 from him in Jacob Phillips. And I know that you were you actually read this one before I did. You read both these books before I did. Um,
yeah,
but this is the whole issue that's been going on in the last few issues of Newburn got wrapped up here. And look, this is like Easton Newburn, where he seems like he's in an impossible spot all the time, constantly. He finds his way out of how to do that, how to get out of this situation. But what's more wild is just how far he goes mentally and with his approach and how he has to handle some of the people that he deals with. And it's just like, oh fuck, like this guy always seemed like this way, calm, cool, and collected, and then we see him act quite a bit different in this issue, and it's like, oh fuck,
yeah,
this guy, yeah, he's not
yeah.
afraid to go there, I guess.
No, and what's been great about this series is that the first 4 or 5 issues were anthology like, right? It
Mm,
was a different case each episode, or each issue, I should say, right? And so we're getting to know a little bit more about Newburn and his methods, and then we get the issue that focuses on his partner there, which was great because I remember you at the time saying, it wasn't my favorite, but I told you, said this is going to play such an important part. We need to know a little bit more about her. We get her, sort of her background. And then the last 3 issues, it's been one linear story. And it's just each one has been better than the next. And then how it comes together in this issue. And like you said, how not only the depths of which Newburn is willing to go to, but another layer to his character. And I won't spoil it, but there was one panel where he just says, he says one thing and it is so definitive and
mhm.
it seems so out of character for him. And you're just left thinking, well, where the fuck is this series going to go now?
Yep,
Right.
I
And
completely
so,
agree.
like, again, Newburn must read, go out, get it. It's just
Hmm.
Zdarsky. He's fucking killing it.
Yeah, awesome stuff. And Jacob
Yeah.
Phillips has been doing a great job throughout the course of
Yep.
the series too. Of course, the artist on that. But if we're talking about looking at all these, because when you talk about the artists too, as we touch on all these things, Noctero's got Tony Daniel, Gunslinger Spawn has Brett Booth, Silvercoin Michael Wallace, who's great for that series, and then of course Jacob Phillips. But I think for me, when we look at all these books, my favorite artist of these Image books has to be Abel. And yes, it's because it's Sean Murphy. Asking Sean Murphy might be my favorite comic book artist out there. Brett Booth is right there though too. But speaking of Abel, Rogue Sun issue 5.
Ha,
Oh, so
ha,
oh,
ha.
yeah, yep. Because we got left on this. So Ryan Parrott left us on a huge like what the fuck moment
Yep.
with issue 4. And actually, I don't think you had read the book in time for our like last time we spoke about it on
Nope.
on the show. So I couldn't talk to you about it till afterwards. Then we get it here, and then it's like things are taken to like a further degree, expounded upon all that. So if you've been
Ah,
waiting on this cliffhanger, you get some answers here, and it's like holy shit, and that's kind of fucked up.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. It was absolutely tremendous. I read this and Newburn before you did. And again, it was just eyeball emojis with a series of exclamation, marks. Just it was so fucking good. And again, you're just going, what the, what?
Yep.
What? I thought the dad was the prick. Wait, what? Huh?
Yep.
Oh shit!
Yep.
Oh shit! It was just a tremendous issue. Again, another series where it just keeps getting
Yes.
better and better and better. And I think I am with you where as much as I love Radiant Black, I think right where we are right now with Rogue Sun, like that, like is definitely edged ahead.
Yep, it has. I think
And
I
Radiant Black's excellent. Don't it's not a knock on Radiant Black at
Radiant
all.
Black's
But
awesome.
like
Yep.
what Parrot's doing with Rogue Sun right now is just like because there is a stark contrast between the two
Hmm.
right now, right? Especially where Radiant Black is story wise and where and it's just like Radiant Black is I don't want to say plateau, but it's sort of we're on this even plane and it's setting up for another ramp up,
Yeah.
right? But
Yep.
Rogue Sun is just we're in the middle of that incline right now, baby.
I think it's a pretty good way to describe it. Like Radiant Black is starting to like guide us down a path, and I think like it's necessary, and it continues to be good. We both love Radiant Black, but it's continued to be good throughout. But they have to build up to what it seems like they're trying to do with Marshall right now.
Yeah,
It's going to take a little bit of work. So I see like where like why it's taken so long for Kyle to get us there, like to get to that next pick. Oh fuck, because
yeah, yeah.
you need some work. You can't just do it out of the blue.
Right. But it's
But with
coming. It's
yes,
coming.
but with Rogue Sun, it has been okay, awesome stuff, really cool art too. And then we get jerked one way, taken another way, then this way, and every single issue has just been like, like it all makes sense, it all adds up, but it's like didn't see that coming. You're leading us this way, and then what the fuck's that?
Yeah.
So like it's been it's been awesome. Both Brian and Kyle Higgins, of course, the writer on Radiant Black, are supposed to be at Boston Fan Expo for those of our New England listeners. So you may want to stop by and say hi to those guys if they show up this year. At least they're scheduled for that. Hopefully they end up showing. But yeah, man, I think right now, I'm not big on always like ranking things, but when you look at Image, obviously a lot of our favorite books are from Image. But right now, man, Rogue Sun might be my favorite ongoing comic right now. So the combination of Abel being an up and coming artist and having a style that I'm a big fan of, and then just what they've done with this, like the plot of the story and how like you can go in so many different directions. So like you're just starting things out, and the potential is infinite. And then Dylan is just like such a where at one point it's like, oh, it's interesting how you're taking this kid who's kind of like a piece of shit, and then you're showing like people can change, but now he's still kind of a piece of shit. But at
Yeah.
the same time, you don't blame him for being that way because look
Just
at what we get in issue 5. It's not.
yeah.
It's 10 times worse than we thought it
So
was.
he's surrounded by pieces of shit.
Yeah, that's what it comes down to. Apparently, some more so than others. So yeah, it's been great. And then look, we're talking about all this Image stuff. We don't even touch on Skybound, which does publish through Image, but technically they are separate. Not technically, they are separate. But I hate this place. Issue 2. You texted me about this before. When it came to the first issue, I know you haven't gotten a look at the second issue, but another, like the first issue, really good, ready to go back in for that second issue right away. Second issue, you're not going to be disappointed when you give this one a look, Joe. Promise you that.
Nice. Looking forward to that.
Then Dark Horse, we got Lonesome Hunter, issue 1, Shaolin Cowboy, Cruel to Be Kin, issue 2, The Collector, Unit 731, issue 3. And just a reminder too, of course, we had the creators of Into Radness on from Dark Horse. That's a Dark Horse book last week, I believe it was. That book is not out yet this week. It's going to be out the final week of June. That's coming out in trade form. So it's all 5 issues of that story there. But let's see, Joe. Why don't you take us through some of these next few here?
Okay, so from IDW, we have Usagi Yojimbo, Lone Goat, and Kid number 6,
Mm.
and Jeffrey McNamara's and Swaggin's favorite book, My Little Pony number 2.
You need to record something with Swaggin someday. Like if I got to
Yeah, I
set
should.
something up here and like we got to do something.
We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. She would. I think she would love that.
Good.
From AWA, we have the finale for Primo. So Primo's number 4, and the Joneses number 3, which I still have to read the second issue.
It was good.
For
Oh,
that.
did I just circle back on that? That was good. It was good.
Was
Yeah,
it?
there's definitely
Okay,
the
yeah,
ending's like, oh boy, it's
yeah.
pretty good. Yeah.
Image just keeps putting out so much shit. It's just getting caught up on that, or staying on top of that, I should say. Is my stack is getting
Well,
really
would you
high
like
now.
more Beware the Eye of Odin? Is that what you want from Image?
From Dynamite, we have Samurai Sonia number 1, which I'm very interested to check
Oh
out.
yeah.
Source Point Press, we have Nook number 1, Cover of Darkness #6, which I love, but I can't fucking read because Newbury Comics doesn't pick it up, and Comixology gives me shitty fucking copies of it, which are completely unreadable.
Did you see the report that apparently Comixology is going to fix their shit?
Yeah. I'll believe when I
Yeah.
fucking see it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, bro.
Okay, bro. Corollary #3 from Titan. We have Cowboy Bebop #4. Rivers of London, Deadly Ever After #2. From speaking of Comixology, books that actually are readable. Again, from Chip Zdarsky, The All Nighter #6. Aftershock, we have Kaiju Score number. I forgot to write the number down. I'm going to assume 3 or 4, somewhere around there. From Vault, we have Mindset #1, which we both read, and I think we both sort of feel the same way. They just tried to cram too much in that first issue,
Yeah.
and it just. I'll read the second issue because I think there's some meat on the bone there for a good story. But if the second issue is anything like the first in terms of layout and amount of information, I might be out.
Yeah, I thought it was like, all right, it's all right. Like, I mean, I could see people maybe being more into it than I am. I saw this getting quite a bit of hype, so I was excited going into it. So maybe expectations didn't help either. But like, I'm gonna like you go ahead and read the second issue. I'll if you tell me that it's really good, I'll give it a look. But other than that, like,
Yeah,
probably gonna be
they
okay on
just,
this one.
and there was something about the lettering too. Like it was a lot. It was
Mm,
a bit sensory over. I mean,
it's a lot.
the art, I will say, the art was gorgeous, and the premise of the book is sort of, there's a murder, and there's a guy being interrogated by the cops. He says, "I didn't do it. I was being mind controlled by an app." So there's this whole technology. So like, there's something there that I think I could really enjoy, but they
Yep.
crammed so much in there,
So much. It's
and
a
I just
lot.
like,
It's a lot, and it's just like it's like it all makes sense and everything. Like it's not poorly done in that sense, but it's just like you're. I feel like maybe it's I don't know if it's hand holding or if it's just like there's just too much
it was just a
going on.
lot. It
Yeah,
was a
and
lot.
yeah,
It
and
was
for
like,
something that I understand like we're not based in reality in the sense like you have this mind control. At least we don't think there's mind control. There may be brain control though. Obviously, we know there's a very staunch difference between the two. But I don't like when you're set in reality more so like you don't need to give us that much in
they
that
could
first issue.
they 100% could have cut back a lot of the dialogue and exposition, and it would have been, like, I think, a heck of a lot better.
Did you get
Um,
my Dinner for Schmucks reference that I was making there?
I don't think I've ever seen Dinner for Schmucks.
You've never seen Dinner for Schmucks?
No, I
Wow.
haven't.
Okay. All right. Well,
Yeah.
my apologies. I guess I'm the schmuck here.
Well,
But
obviously.
yeah. Well, we go to Boom, dickhead, and we've got obviously 3 books that you're reading from over there. Something is killing, or two. Excuse me. Something's killing the children. Issue 24. The Killer. Affairs of the State. I always want to say State of
I
Affairs.
know, right? I did the same thing.
Issue 5. We only find them when they're dead. Issue 11, which you did read, but you're done with that, right? Like you.
I read the first arc. I wasn't like in love with it. I thought it was good, and then I'm so far behind. I'm a completely a second arc behind on this.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And then all new Firefly issue 5, Magic the Hidden Planeswalker issue 3, and Joe, that is it for what's new, and it's time to do something we haven't done in a long time. I don't know if you don't remember how to do this. It's been a long time since issue 61. We're on 62 now, so that means it's time for you to tell us about a book that you wanted to share with me.
Not gonna lie, I kind of thought we were doing a solicit this week. That's what it felt like.
For real. I know. It's
But
weird. Like when I went to do it, I'm like, what one I know I have some in the bank. Like, which one do I want to do?
right, so this is a book I've wanted to do for a little bit, but kept getting pushed back because we kept getting, various interviews, and then it would be time for solicits, and
And
so
more interviews.
right, and more interviews. So this week from Boom Studios, I am discussing Eat the Rich, written by Sarah Gailey, artist Pius Black, colors Roman Titov, and letters by Cardinal Ray. This book was excellent. I loved it. From the first issue on, and quickly called dibs. And I'm excited I can finally talk about it. So, synopsis: what unspeakable horror eats away at the heart of Crestfall Bluffs? With law school and her whole life ahead of her, Joey plans summer with her boyfriend Astor in his seemingly perfect hometown of Crestfall Bluffs. It's a chance to finally meet Aster's family and childhood friends, all while enjoying a vacation with every need attended to by servants. But beneath the affluent perfection lies a dark, deadly rot. Will Joey
Ooh.
discover the truth before it's too late? And if she does, can she survive to tell the tale? Perfect for fans of Stillwater and Nailbiter.
Wow.
So, two books I've loved very much, one of which, Nailbiter, I've discussed on this show. And I would
You
say
talked
it's so.
Stillwater on this show too.
That's right. I did. Right. Jesus.
Unbelievable.
That's how long it's been.
I can't wait till we get Chip on again. I'm gonna tell him that you forgot. I gotta get back in his good graces. I'm on the shit list now.
Yeah. So I would say that this book is perfectly smack dab between those two, right? Stillwater is a great character story. Nailbiter also, but it's a lot more violent and vicious. And so Eat the Rich sort of weasels right in between the two really perfectly. So this is Eat the Rich is 5 issues. And it's a perfect 5 issues. It's perfectly paced and it ends at the right point, and you're not clamoring for more. Like it ends, it's a satisfying end, and I think, this is something that we've seen AWA do really well, where they come out with these books that are 4, 5, 6 issues long, and they hit the nail on the head. I think the only real exception we had was like Marjorie Finnegan, which was 8, which is uncharacteristic for AWA, and we both feel it was probably about 2 issues too long,
Mm.
right? So like that's the sweet spot. And what's funny is that this is sort of like a couple years ago, this is what Boom was doing. They were coming out with these books that were supposed to be 5, 6 issues long. But then you had Something is Killing the Children and Once and Future come along and just say, oh, yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. Screw 6 issues. We're going to 12. Oh, yeah. Fuck 12 issues. We're ongoing. Right.
Mhm.
And so while I think those two stories lended to that, formula really well, this one does it, and that's not a knock on this book, because I think what Sarah Gailey does here is that they tell like I said, a really great story, and it's tight, right?
Mhm.
5 issues, boom, perfect, and it's paced really well. You fly through it, which is again not a knock. You just get so engrossed into it, and I mean, I guess maybe they could come back and revisit this, but I kind of hope they don't, because I really like the story they told. I mean, they would have to tell this story with, I think, a whole different set of characters at that point, like just start a different series. But
Mhm.
with that said, Eat the Rich is about a family living in a ritzy coastal community, as a synopsis you stated. That's very powerful, very eccentric, and it's sort of what else? Like, what are the skeletons in the closet
So this
here?
hit close home for you.
Yeah, yeah, because I'm very rich and eccentric.
Mm.
Yeah, I drive a fucking Nissan Sentra. So, the story focuses on Aster, who is sort of this family's, he's the eldest son, who, his character has quit drinking. He's returning to his family home for the summer with his girlfriend Joey. He hasn't been there in a while. His family and friends, again, they're rich. You like to bury your head in the sand with these sort of things. So, like, well, they don't really know I had a drinking problem. They don't know that I've quit drinking, right? So, like, there's some good like character development, there with him. And then Joey, you learn right off the bat, she's a very neurotic mess, very anxious. She doesn't think she's good enough for Aster. She's very intimidated about meeting his family. So like we haven't even got like the first few pages, you haven't even really gotten into the meat of the story yet, but you already know so much about these two characters. So, Sarah Gailey does some really good character work here. And really does a good job at setting up some suspense without anything really happening yet.
Mm.
And so, she doesn't feel the part of high society. She doesn't look the part of high society. And so like she's just like on edge this entire time. And then you get there, you meet the family, you get the sense right away, boom, yeah, there's something going on. His family's odd, but you still don't really know yet. We meet another character where Joey is she just needs she constantly needs a breath of fresh air, which gets her into trouble later on in this first issue. But she walks down to the beach. She meets another character, the family nanny. Her name is Patal. And, so they start talking. She's watching over one of the, family's babies who all of a sudden, like, Joey doesn't see this, and Patel seems, undisturbed by it, but the baby has like a human jawbone. It's just like teething on it, like she found
What?
from the sand. So that's the moment you go, where the fuck is this story going? Right. And like Patel just sort of like, baby just must have got some sand in its mouth, and so Joey like kind of connects with her and offers her help. Like, if you ever need any help, just let me know. And Patel says, I'm going to give you a piece of advice. Don't ever let that family see you being friendly to the help. Don't offer the help, or you won't survive one day in this
Ooh.
family. So
Ooh.
now it's like, okay, well, what you got baby teething on fucking human bones, and you've got, this other character saying like, don't let this rich family see you, being nice to me, or else you're not gonna you survive. Like, okay, what the hell is going on here? And so all this stuff is first issue stuff. So it's there's so much more to it. So that night there's a big party. It's like to kick off the summer. Aster's very nervous. Joey's very fucking nervous. The families, there's a lot of pressure. It's a big it's a big gala. It's a big beachside barbecue sort of thing. And again, Joey's like, I got to get some air. I got to get some air. She goes back down to the beach and she sees one of the butlers getting violently murdered. I mean, viciously murdered. And she doesn't know what the fuck to do. And so she just runs off in a panic. And then several panels later, you see like that butler being cooked. You just see human remains on a grill. And that's sort of how the first issue ends. So, like, eat the rich. Okay, I get the title now. Where is this story going? And so the next 4 issues just do a great job of sort of diving into what the actual fuck is going on. You get to know like who knows what, is Aster involved? How does Joey come to grips with what she saw? Who and what is this family exactly? And so like it's a wild ride as we get to the conclusion. And it definitely, as I said earlier, it's got that still water vibe to it, in terms of like you've got like this community that is set in its ways, and now
Mm.
you've got an outsider coming in, and is the outsider really gonna buck the trends of what's going on, and are they the perceived enemy of this community? And then again, with that nail biter vibe, you get a lot of horror,
Mm.
violence, blood, right? So it's like it's a perfect marriage between the two, really. And so the suspense is great. The art is fantastic. I'm not familiar with Pius Black's work, but excellent job. Excellent job here in this book.
Yes, that's what I was going to ask you when it came to the art style, because I've seen some of the cover. Obviously, you posted one on our Twitter account, also on our Instagram page, both at TLDR_pod for those who don't follow us there yet. And I saw the art. I didn't know if that was Pius Black's art for that cover specifically, but I was curious. Is it more like kind of like Philadelphia and like Jason Shawn
No, no,
Alexander, or
no,
is it
the exact opposite. I would say, if anything, it's probably closer to Moore's kind of style.
okay? All right.
Yeah,
So it's like
not
cool, like that cool, like comic book meets manga ish kind of thing.
a little bit, a little bit. The
Okay.
colorist too, Roman Titov, like the colors in this book are great as well. So like, if you're a fan of horror, you're going to enjoy this. Like I said, it reads quick, but that's not a knock on it. It's just entertaining and wild as hell. So I can't recommend enough if you're a horror fan. This is great.
I don't think whenever you call something a quick read, I don't think that's usually bad, unless you preface before like this just didn't say anything.
Yeah,
It's clearly
well,
saying a lot.
we said that once with a righteous thirst for vengeance, right?
Yes, yeah, yeah,
And,
so
so
fast.
yeah.
What the fuck? But what the other question, the same question that I generally have for you, this seems like it's something to be more like a movie based on it only being
No,
5 issues.
100%. Make this a movie. I mean, if you were gonna do a TV show, it would have to be 4 or 5 episodes. But even then, it would just be better as a movie. I
Mm.
think a good tight 2 hour movie.
Well, they like well, no, they actually no. Based on what you said, never mind. It makes more sense that it would be a movie. I kind of yeah, because like you said you couldn't see how they'd go beyond like how this would get extended, like some of those other Boom books were. Like this has to
Right.
be tight story. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Interesting. I know. So like I said, Lauren's a big like. I forget what I think it was the Echo Wife that she read by Sarah Gailey and really like. I think that was the book. I get some of the writers that she reads mixed up here and there, some of their books. But yeah, so that's cool to hear like that they wrote a cool comic too. I'm definitely going to give this one a check at some point. Interesting, the art style. Like I didn't expect it to be when you say Dan Mora adjacent. Wouldn't guess that for a horror book ever.
Yeah, like I think it's not quite like you don't look at him like, oh, this looks like Dan Moore stuff, but I would say it's sort of in that
Yeah,
similar vein, that more towards that scale versus the the Jason Alexander side of things.
yeah. That's very interesting.
Sean Jason, I did not George Costanza. Jason Sean Alexander.
Before we go further down this rabbit hole, we're going to talk. We got some pretty violent stuff going on today. Joe's talking about eating the rich, and I got Kill or Be Killed from Image Comics. Of course, this is written by Ed Brubaker, who we've talked about on the show quite a bit, and Sean Phillips, his partner in crime. Brubaker being the writer, Sean Phillips being the artist. The colors for this one, Elizabeth Brightweiser, didn't list the letter, so I'm assuming it's any one of those three. I'm not going to give credit to her. I don't know it's necessarily due. But we talked about Sean Phillips and Brubaker a little while back for the Reckless books. They have 4 of those out now. Enjoyed every single one of them. I know some people feel like I've seen from like Reddit and different people kind of how they respond to it. Some didn't like one of them, but then there's other people who like I don't like I like that one and not this other one. So but by and large, like all 4, I thought were really well done. And obviously, reading this, I actually started reading Kill or Be Killed before I started reading the Reckless books. I do believe this came out first. This ran from August 16th to June, from August 2016 to June 2018. This is a 20-issue story, 4 trades. They're available in 4 trades now, or in one full collected edition. As you can imagine, Joe, with this kind of coming to an end, would be better suited for. Actually, this could be turned into a show. Not to kneecap you and take away that question from you
Well,
later.
I was gonna say, I want an Ed Brubaker, Sean Phillips, just show created for property created, because like they just tell that noir style so well, and I think that Brubaker's writing, just leads itself to a wonderful serialized type show.
Yeah, I think.
Give me a Sherlock style show, like hour and a half
Mm,
with these type books that he tells, like like the Reckless series.
yeah,
Like one book could be like 3 1.5 hour episodes and tell that whole story. It would be
yeah.
fantastic.
Reckless could be a show or it could be a series of movies. This, I think, it could end up being better suited as like a one-off limited series and like make it like 8 or 9 episodes, something to that, and just have it be that, because I don't think it would be well suited as a movie. But the problem is, and I'll get into it more, is the narration. But it's also a strength of the story. I'll talk about that a little bit more. But first, the synopsis. Kill or Be Killed is the story of a troubled young man who is compelled to kill bad people and how he struggles to keep his secret as it slowly begins to ruin his life and the lives of his friends and loved ones. Both a thriller and a deconstruction of vigilantism. I don't think you can sum up this any better than that. This is another pulp crime story. Of course, that's Brubaker and Phillips' forte. The main character at the center of all this, his name is Dylan. And for me, when I look, we usually pick up stuff because of like certain writers, right? Like you see cool art and you maybe want to give it a shot. But if you see, okay, this writer's on this, I know I like this writer, I know Joe or someone else likes this writer, I'm going to give this one a look. But I will admit, when I saw this cover for Kill or Be Killed, it's like, oh, we got this red mask kind of here like that. Like, okay. Like I didn't know, I had no clue what it was, because I definitely do that sometimes where I don't look at the synopsis beforehand. I'm just like, I'm just going to give it a look. And then just kind of ran with it from there. So really cool art in this issue, this series. Like for me, where I obviously like Sean Phillips is a good artist. I think with the Reckless stuff, like it's cool and everything, and I think it plays well. And Jacob Phillips is the colorist, obviously makes sense for the story. But I think for Kill or Be Killed, where there's a lot more like action and more violence in this story, I just think it kind of had more of an impact on me in the sense of like I can't wait to see what Phillips is going to be drawing next, and of course, Brett Weiser's colors and everything really fit for the story and whatnot. But as for the character Dylan, he I mentioned before, as mentioned before, he becomes this vigilante. Actually, we meet him. They do this thing where we've seen it before with other stories, where you start in the middle of a story or towards the end of something, and then you kind of work your way back. They do that like in almost every friggin' issue of the story, and it's kind of a joke that the character makes because the character's talking to the reader. But it works. Like they make it work every single time. Feels very fluid, very natural, and it brings you right in right off the rip. But the thing with this character Dylan is he is very unwell. He is on medication. And obviously, plenty of people see psychiatrists and they can be fine. But he's got a lot more deep stuff going on. I don't know if it's depression, but it feels kind of like that. But either way, he has to take his meds. And the whole thing is like he's a very unreliable narrator, but at the same time, you're seeing all the actions transpire in front of you. One difference between like prose and comics, like you can see all these things. Doesn't mean it can't be a dream sequence, but you see all these things, and it's like, okay, like I feel like I should be believing every single one of these things. But at the same time, it's like, like this demon is involved in all this. And it's like, this feels like a grounded story. And you got this character who's not really all there. I don't know what to necessarily believe. And that's what, but they do like, that's what Brubaker's greatest strength, I think, is in all this. And that's where it would make it tough to adapt this thing and have it be reach its full peak of awesomeness in another medium, because the narration here, I don't think obviously you can use that stuff in shows and in movies and it can still be very effective. But here, I just think it like reflects everything, whether it's going on with the panels, but also kind of pulls you away at times too. And at the same time takes you inside this character's head. But it's just because you're reading, like it like you just don't know exactly what to believe because this character is so calculated in ways.
Gotcha.
But I'm just like, are you sure, dude? Like, I don't know. Like the demon thing like is so like up and down. You just don't know. But anyways, awesome character, awesome story. You got Kira, who is who starts out in this story as the girlfriend of Dylan's roommate. And then in the first few pages, her and Dylan start kind of messing around. So that becomes the whole thing. And then Mason is Dylan's roommate, who you don't really see throughout the majority of things. Like he pops up here and there, but him and Dylan don't get along. I don't really think they got much. They didn't really get much along before that whole thing. But then after they broke up, he just like they really didn't get along at all. You meet a few other characters that are around for a bit, but kind of go in and out of the story. It's mostly about Dylan. Kira pops up in the course of it all. But yeah, to me, this is right up there with with any of their Pulp Fiction stuff that they've done. I thought that the action really like more so stood out than usual. But you get like the mob mixed in the way like the cops are chasing down Dylan, but at the same time you run into this issue like he's killing guys. He's doing basically what Red Hood does. He's killing people who deserve it, like like pedophiles, mob guys, people who what is it that Bernie Madoff did?
Ponzi scheme.
Ponzi scheme. Thank you. Like a guy who ran a Ponzi scheme, who basically got like not even full. He got sentenced like 4 years in jail and didn't serve the 4 years because, of course, that's how things work. And he's back out just doing his own thing. So all that kind of stuff. And then again, you got this like demon character that's in the mix that like at first like it pops up right away, pops up in the first issue, and you want to believe that it's that he's got like he makes like he fits into things like it's as much as it's a grounded story. There's a demon at play, but then as it goes along, it's like I don't know. You sure about that? Like I don't. So they do a great job of planting seeds of doubt every step of the way. Awesome storytelling, issue to issue, not just like overall overarching. They do a great job of like pulling you in different directions, and then the character work with Dylan is. Honestly, the character work with Dylan is some of the better stuff I think I've seen like recently. Obviously, this book's been out for a while, but they do a great job with like just messing around with him, messing around with the readers, especially through the narration. Which again, where I can be quick to criticize narration when I think it's just hard to do it well. I think it's easy to get lazy with it. When it's done well, it is done very well.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, what I was trying to say earlier is like like Brubaker to become like the next Dick Wolf,
Mm,
on TV and just start writing crime shows,
yeah.
right, and giving it to us on the regular because the guy's got a knack for it, obviously.
Yeah, he does. They are a great tandem. Some would say like they're the TLDR of writing comics. I
Yeah,
think that
yeah,
some people would say that, but
yeah.
I'm not sure who those people are, but some would say that. One thing though, Joe, that you and I have kind of overlooked in our time on this show as we kind of move away from as part of our main line, we've tried to do some different stuff, of course, in our show. But one thing that you and I were told recently that we've overlooked is apparently, tell me if you've heard this. There's this book called no, it's not the Failed Superheroes Club. It is the League of Regrettable Superheroes by John Morris. Have you heard of this?
I believe good friend of the show, Wesley Burho, had suggested that, either us or Dork, read this book and talk about, some characters from it. And, but alas, we have,
Oh, yes.
we
Yeah.
have.
Yes, we have. So thank you, Wes.
Wes Burho presents the
Yeah,
Failed Superhero Club.
that's what we're gonna call this from now on. I'm gonna gotta figure out how to spell his last name. But
Now,
yeah,
now, now, but to his credit, we've only done a few of these, and they've been mainline only, and we've only done like 3 mainline,
mhm,
episodes in the past, 3 months,
yep.
So
So it's
I
easy to
get it,
miss.
right? Easy to
Yes.
miss, but it's a great book. Nick, you got this for Christmas from your soon to be sister-in-law?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
This was a great gift.
Yeah.
It's honestly, it is the gift that keeps on giving. I'll tell you what, Joe, we got a real fucking winner this week. This is book I'm sure is available at Barnes and Noble. I would think local comic shops. I think I actually saw it at Time Capsule in Seekonk, my local comic shop. So you should be able to pick this up wherever you pick up your comics. Some awesome stuff by John Morris. Collection of a bunch of awful stuff. So
Yeah.
this week, Joe, we have characters. This is a team. At least it started out
Oh,
as a team. Created by Alan Mandel and Dan Barry. They debuted in Hillman periodicals in January 1943. This is Clue Comics issue 1.
so a recent book.
Yes, of course. God damn it. I wasn't ready for that. So this week I want to tell you about, and I hope you don't have problem sleeping at night. Nightmare and Sleepy.
Are they dwarves?
No, they're not. No, we got Sleepy and Doc talking about both on the show today, apparently though. Yeah, you
Feeling
said
a
I
bit
was hiatus
sleepy.
before the show. But okay, so we got Bob White, who is the character Nightmare, and then we got Terry Wake, who is the character Sleepy. This
A
is
little,
on
little on the
this.
nose on that
Yes.
one.
Oh, yes, yes, yeah. I meant Wake. Terry Wake. That is
Yeah.
brilliant writing. I know, like Stan Lee said, like in the past, like, oh, I would do alliteration because it makes it easier to remember these characters' names because there's just so many of them. I mean, I kind of get that. Like, that's kind of become a comic book thing. Like, whatever. Terry Wake. That's lazy. That's bad. It's just. I mean, it's a sign of the times, probably
It was
too.
a different world in 1943.
Yeah. Well, apparently they still had wrestlers back then, Joe, because
Oh, hell
apparently
yeah.
that's what Bob White was. He was. It's not enough to be a wrestler. That's not fulfilling enough. He has to go and fight crime in his travels as well. Not at all strange.
No,
Um,
it's great. It's fantastic.
this might
Love
be
it.
more up your alley than I realize, actually.
Yeah, I think it might be. I'm gonna find. I'll see if Comixology has this.
Oh, that would be amazing. And he did an episode. We have to do like a special episode on that one. I don't know what we'd call it, but he wears a skeleton costume covered by phosphorescent paint. That is his superhero outfit. He wears like a skull. That's how it started out, at least. The character went through a lot of
Seems a little
transformation.
ahead of its time for 1943. Not gonna lie.
Maybe, but then we get this with Terry Wake. So as far as the superhero costume goes, he wears what look like footy pajamas, and then he has a Red Riding hood and cape, and then he has like red gloves. So I don't know how that works,
Kind of
but
sounds
that's
like Peter Parker's for Spider-Man suit. Okay, we're cooking with some gas here.
sure. Okay,
You
so
know,
how do you feel about this? Terry Wake is a teenager. He also happens to be Bob White's wrestling manager.
the teenager's the manager.
Hmm. Yeah, and if
That's a
you
little
look at the art,
backwards.
if you look at the art of the kid, like it's a kid for sure, no doubt about it.
That's okay. That's a little odd. I'm not gonna lie.
A little odd.
That's a smidge odd. Yeah.
That's the I look. The Terry Wake thing is terrible.
Or
The
maybe he's Benjamin Button. You know, he's got
oh,
that Benjamin Button disease.
who you know what? You
So
are
you know,
so mindful and so sensitive. God, you are so deep, Joe. I didn't. How did I not think of that? Just because
I
I'm
should be
shallow,
writing
I
these
guess.
fucking. I should be writing these fucking books.
I mean, honest to God, you could have written millions back in the day. Fuck. But then they fight supernatural foes, including the Undertaker, pre-Undertaker from wrestling. I'll give them that credit. Robber Baron, and then this is the biggest one, Joe. The corpse that steals living men's faces.
I was just reading this. It sounds like these guys were ahead of their time. Undertaker. We got you sort of a Spider-Man-esque vibe here. We got a Nick Cage, John Travolta face-off thing going on here, right?
Yeah,
Like
sure.
I don't know. These guys might have been onto something. Alan Mandel and Dan Barry, time
Okay.
travelers,
I
perhaps.
I tend to disagree. These characters also don't have superpowers. So basically, that this guy is going and he's professional wrestling by day, which is I understand it may have not have been as taxing back then, but it is still as it is now. But it's still a taxing thing to do, a taxing profession to have on your body. Not superpowered at all, and then he goes and fights crime at night without the help of powers. Just goes and kicks some ass. Sleepy doesn't
Sounds
have
like
powers on
Batman.
it.
You
He's
know,
sure, but Batman also doesn't fight people during the day unless he's being Batman. Bruce Wayne does not do that.
yeah,
Right.
true,
Right.
right. So these guys maybe a step ahead. You know,
Wow. Well, he's
right?
broke, so
Well, that's a stark contrast. That
yep.
makes things difficult. But that's
Mm,
why he's fighting during the day. He's going to make that cheddar. You know.
yeah. Speaking of Batman, actually, because Batman was obviously around at that time, this character kind of starts out pretty dark with the supernatural stuff, and then things I guess get kind of lighter. Nightmare goes through a change in his costume to look more superhero like. In fact, according to John Morris, he ended up getting a cowl with horns, kind of similar, not too far off from a guy you just mentioned before.
Kane Estate has a copyright infringement on their hands. I think.
I think you're right. And then over time, you move away from these supernatural foes, and then they start fighting like regular, like common thugs and Nazis. Because of
Well,
course,
yeah, of course.
it's 1943.
You got to be fighting Nazis. It's in the four. Yeah, you gotta. It's
So by the end of this character's history, who I hope someone manages to bring him back at some point, just do some stupid shit with him. In his last appearance, Nightmare was reimagined as a crime-fighting genie who was summoned by by the smoking of a home
by Aladdin.
by the no close though, very close. Nosy McGinnis.
That's a fucking name.
Yes. And Nosy McGinnis's profession, he is a private detective. He summoned him by smoking a homemade cigar.
Yeah, cigar.
Mm.
Fucking Nosy McGinnis is fucking high off his
I feel like
ass.
I'm burying the lead with all that, but that's
Yeah.
unfortunately the character's history arc. We go chronological order with all this stuff. So yeah, we got to see if Nosy McGinnis is in this book too, because sounds like
Yeah, you got to flip through. I need to know more about Nosy McGinnis.
yeah,
Jesus Christ.
I'll have to give that a look. But we have only just scratched the surface when it comes to the Failed Superheroes Club presented by Wesley Burho and the Boxers podcast.
Yes.
That's what we're gonna have to do.
Yeah.
That's how we'll do it.
Yeah.
But yeah. So next week, it looks like we got some other stuff cooking. So you guys may have to wait a while longer for the next mainline episode. So enjoy this while it lasts. But until next week, Joe, stay sexy.
You know.